Alberta.
You can do whatever you like. Speaking of Alberta, we have one of the first fast-tracked environmental reviews. The government had put a streamlined process in place. There were concerns that that would mean that it would run roughshod over the environment. In this case, in fact, it's gone against Cenovus. Cenovus Energy wanted to increase its natural gas drilling in a sensitive area, double the number of wells, in fact, and the government has said no to that plan.
Very bad mistake.
Why?
Because you want to have jobs, you want royalties, and you want corporate taxation. You want all these things. In order to get them, you have to let businesses do what they do. And in this case, extract gas. I don't know what that decision was.
It was based on the 19 species that are at risk in this endangered area that the company's already drilling. The government reviewed it. They did it quickly, so you should be happy about that. They've streamlined their process. To me, it's a sign that the streamlined process doesn't necessarily mean they're just going to say, you know, screw the environment. We're actually going to pay attention to times when you need to slow business down.
The extraction of gas technology advanced so much over the last 20 years that no species are at risk when they take gas.
Are you kidding me?
But let me finish.
Are you kidding me?
Look, I have talked to the animals because I can speak species.
You have no idea. And when you say something like that, it drains you of all credibility.
No, you know,
just take my advice. Nobody has to listen. Take my advice and don't say things that are that absurd.
I remember when you were complaining about pipelines, and I explained to you, and this is factual, pumping stations generate heat, moose like heat when they're freezing in February.
Yeah, and they go cuddle up against the pipelines. Yeah.
But wait, the decision to fast-track these decisions is actually good because...
I agree. And it's good that it doesn't necessarily mean the environment won't win. It shows that the government is committed to an efficient process that is actually balanced and fair. Everybody wins. If this review found that they shouldn't double their drilling, then that is the right outcome.
Now they know where they can put their capital in a country like India, where you don't have to worry about regulation like this.
Or China, where if people disappoint you, you just throw them in jail or murder them. We could live there, too.
What does that have to do with the environment?
Because we actually have protections in this society where we are all stakeholders, we're all in it together, and it isn't just the interests of business that trump everybody.
What I'm trying to teach you, and you should learn this, is that money goes to the path of least resistance. When you put all kinds of barriers, for example, government policy like this in place...
The gas is always going to be in the ground.
You know
That's where the gas is. All we're saying is we're going to control the rate of extraction. And by the way, that's a smart thing to do. It's the kind of thing Peter Lougheed talked at length about in Alberta. You don't need to suck it all out today, willy-nilly, at great cost to the environment.
You want to get as much capital as country as you possibly can. You just saw GDP growth decline, and the reason is lack of economic...
You need a longer-term, bigger picture view of the world.
You were just whining about GDP. I told you how to fix it.
Let's talk about this interesting letter. You just said yesterday we were talking about climate change and the questions around the science and the scientists who question it. Well, 125 of them have sent an open letter to UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon saying that the current scientific knowledge is not based on good evidence, asking him to stop making claims as he did about Hurricane Sandy being part of this sort of climate change story. What's your view of how important this is? This is obviously a small fraction of the globe's scientists. Many, many, many more scientists are on board with the climate change science. Where does it leave people who are trying to figure out the right thing to do if the world scientists seem to be bickering about this subject?
What I'm saying is you need to take a long-term view of this. Just because Al Gore got everybody squawking like chickens on his alarmist movie doesn't mean you change fiscal policy. And so what I'm saying is if you're going to study climate change, do it over, let's say, 50 to 100 years.
Well, that's how it works. That you have to study it over those periods of time.
So in 100 years from now, then we could put a carbon tax on if, in fact, it stays in place.
Here's the problem.
Meanwhile, I need every country on board.
Just for the sake of argument, if we're wrong, and I'm with you, because there seems to be some dispute, and you don't like to sort of just rush off and make decisions based on bad science. So if we're wrong, however, we don't have 100 years to wait. If the climate change scientists are right, we're actually already seeing sea levels rise, and we actually may already be seeing weather related to it. So this is as a non-scientist, it's somewhat frustrating to know what to believe.
Every scientist you tell me is an alarmist regarding climate change, I can find another one that says this is a natural cycle.
I don't think that's quite the ratio.
It is enough.
Frankly, it isn't quite the ratio.
As long as there's one dissenting voice, I listen to it because I'm
only if it matches your opinion.
No, not at all. My opinion is I want to understand with certainty what's going on.
Well, I agree.
And frankly, you should remember this: in 100 years, you're going to be dead, but not me. I'm a vampire.
I know. Does anybody have a wooden stake, Paul? Wooden stake? No. All right, coming up after the